Why Vote, Youth Over Guns, and Young Governors. As a heads up, the presenters will be calling on you to answer specific questions. You're not required to answer, but if you feel led to, please click the raised hand icon to volunteer to speak, or you can type your answer into the chat box. We will be moderating the attendees and will call on you and grant speaking position. If you're called on, remember to unmute yourself. The Q&A box is also available for you to ask any questions throughout the workshop. Each of the organizations presenting have exciting events coming up, and you can find all the information you need about those events on the NyC YCI website, nycyci.org. All right, let's get started. The first workshop of the day is brought to you by Why Vote, a cross-partisan group that focuses on sparking conversations among young people about how they can make a difference with their votes and keep making a difference beyond the ballot box. They focus on educating students about voting and taking political action through workshops just like this one, conferences, and programs. Here are some representatives to tell you more.
Hi y'all, I'm just going to share my screen now and get started. Awesome. So I'm Yessii, and this is Karla, who's joining me on the workshop. We're here as representatives of Why Vote, an initiative dedicated to empowering adolescents as active participants in society, activism, and politics. Why Vote is lucky enough to have accepted over 125 youths out of 499 applicants this summer. Our summer cohorts are from 69 high schools across all 5 boroughs, representing 44 self-identified ethnicities and inclusive of every race. As you can see on our website, we have this awesome website with all of our participants this summer. And this is can you see that? Yes, okay. And this is our pie chart. But I just wanted to show you the website. You can go on whyvotenewyork.org/incoming-why voters. With this being said, Why Vote works to combat low voting rates by getting young and passionate people like all of you to make a difference. This can be by voting or even just telling your story to spark activism in hopes for a better future. We're also youth activists. If you want to share your story, Karla, about being a youth activist.
Yeah, just to speak on Why Vote, I joined Why Vote, I think I would say late 2017, and it's just been honestly life-changing. I may be biased because I'm in the program, but honestly, because I'm in the organization, but I feel like Why Vote is definitely, if you want to just know more about voting and want to know more just about really a lot of stuff in like civics and in politics, you don't really know where to go. I feel like Why Vote is the perfect place for you because I didn't know really anything about, politics and anything, just kind of coming in, but I've now learned so much with them, and I feel like you should definitely join, honestly, so.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I actually heard about Why Vote during their launch in the fall of 2018, my senior year of high school. And one of my teachers was actually working with Why Vote at the time, and I was lucky enough to find myself in politics because I was very ignorant, and I was one of those that was thinking about voting, but I didn't really know how to go about it. My family always said it doesn't matter. And Why Vote opened up this door where I actually care about voting and talking to representatives, elected officials, and standing up for everyone in my community and the nation and the world. So yeah, by the end of this session, we hope that you too will feel empowered as Karla and I do. And we're going to start off with an activity. It's called Stand Up, Sit Down in real life, but we're going to do a Zoom edition where you're going to raise your hand if you feel as though the statement that we say resonates with you. Obviously, this is optional. If you don't feel like playing, it's okay. Feel free to look at the participants and who's raising their hand while we're doing this activity. So, Karla, let's start with you.
So if you can hear these words that I am saying, raise your hand in the chat just so we know that, everything's good.
We better get 19 raises.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, next one. Everybody that's raising their hand can put their hand down now. And the next is raise your hand if you brushed your teeth this morning. Okay.
I would hope everyone did. But okay.
The hygiene on the chat.
Okay.
You could put your hands down now.
Yeah, you guys can put your hands down. Raise your hand if you've ever been mistreated by law enforcement because of your skin color. And that also includes, the school officers at your school. That as well.
Right. Okay. Thanks for raising your hands. So raise your hand if you've ever been made to feel uncomfortable about your skin color. Remember to look at the attendings and see that you're not alone in all this. You can put your hands down now.
Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever been made to feel uncomfortable about your accent or the language you spoke or currently speak. Yeah, I hear that.
You can put your hands down now. Alrighty. I'm loving the chat. Everybody is working well with us. Raise your hand if you ever felt like you had to advocate for yourself or others due to their skin color or your own. I see all the activists raising their hand. You can put your hand down now.
Okay. Raise your hand if you have health insurance or if your parents or family has health insurance. Okay. I love the amount of hands raised, just the amount of people that are
interacting with us.
Okay.
You can put your hands down now. Thank you. Raise your hand if you were raised with 2 adults in the household. Nice. You can put your hands down now.
Okay. Raise your hand if you have ever gone to a march or protest.
More activists raising their hand.
Good to know.
Okay, next question. You can put your hands down. Thanks for participating again. Raise your hand if you've ever had to stand up for yourself due to discrimination of any sort.
Okay. You guys can put your hands down. Raise your hand if you've ever voted or are now registered to vote, let's just say. Yay, okay. Cool.
Or pre-registered before the pandemic happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so last one. If you are able to take a stand, raise your hand.
I would hope
Any type of stand. It can be metaphorically or literally. Awesome. Oh, we're going to take a lot of stands. All right, so let's just briefly talk about this activity. Anybody wants to shout out if they liked it? What did you think while seeing other people raise their hands? If anybody wants to volunteer, I think Kai wants to volunteer. I just don't know how to.
Can we unmute on here? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh. Can we?
I don't know.
No, I just see chat. I apologize. I wish that would be nice.
If you can just drop it in the chat and we'll see it.
We'll read it out if you feel comfortable.
If you feel comfortable, for sure.
Yeah, this is just one of the activities we do a lot in YVote, so a little thing in there.
Okay. Oh, we can allow them to speak, Jason said. If you want to speak, you can just raise your hand and Jason will go ahead and unmute you.
Yeah.
But if not, we can move on because we have a lot to go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll move on. Thank you for participating again. We really appreciate it. I hope you saw that you're not alone in any of these. There was multiple hand raising from everyone. But yeah.
Okay. Now here is a dictionary definition of what activism is. And being in Why Vote and just kind of being different, I now see activism not only as one thing, not only as the policy, I'll read it out, the policy of or action of using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. And that is, pretty much a very good basic level of the definition, but activism is showed in various different ways. And I feel like that is kind of why we're sort of all here today, whether you consider yourself an activist or whether you want to know more about activism or how to get out there. I feel like that's like a really big thing. So, yeah.
So,
anything, Yessii, or?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask to the audience, to the people watching us. So, what does change mean to you? That last word, social change, or just change. What does that really mean to you or the people around you? If anybody wants to volunteer or say it in the chat. And also, what does activism mean to you? There's a lot of ways you can be an activist. What ways do you advocate for others? We want to be as interactive as we can, and Jason said we can allow you to speak. So if you feel like speaking, raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Okay, so from Ashley, change to me means a new normal, for sure. I mean, given everything right now, it is a new normal. Just with activism, I feel like just being able to change a certain narrative is definitely creating that new normal that's accessible to everyone. So I hear that.
Anyone else? Sorry, Ashley, I spelled your name wrong. All right, so we can go right ahead and move on and talk about what change means to us. So change, So change to us means protesting. It means networking. As you can see how, if you were a part of this, I was, where you were able to put a blue square and now it's black for Black Lives Matter. I know a lot of people have that on Instagram right now. This is a form of networking where you're allowing yourself to be a part of a group that changes, even if it's very minimal. It does a lot. It shows that you're a part of them and you're advocating for them. And change is voting. So when you go out to vote, even if it's like voting at your college for a representative or at high school because you can't vote in the election yet, that's still change. You want someone that represents you, that advocates for you during your time in the school you are in. And most importantly, young adults are agents of change. By choosing to be here today, you are demonstrating that you are an activist and are committed to becoming a better one. So you've already started. You're here at a youth civic fair. You're here participating at this workshop. So you are, in fact, being an activist, showing that you're trying to change something in your community, be it your state or the nation.
Yeah. Just being here just like shows a lot. That means like you want to know more, whether, your mindset before was very like voting doesn't matter. I don't really care. I'm just going to leave it up to people. Like, you're definitely starting to change that narrative, like in your like mindset and just like showing that to other people and like letting people know, like maybe once this workshop is over, you could tell other people like, hey, these are some of the organizations, youth-led organizations that are here and that are wanting, people to come and join, and definitely just being a part of that, I feel like is a big thing. So you're already taking that step. So you should give you guys a pat on the back. It's good.
But yeah, I know a lot of you probably are talking about solutions to issues right now, especially during COVID. Probably sending out information, being a resource to others is in fact advocating and being an activist. So shout out to you. So we're going to talk about electoral activism. Karla, if you want to start us off.
So electoral activism is the use of a civic engagement to inspire change. If we want to achieve lasting, systematic, getting the right people to vote in our government, it's important to be, accountable of exactly who we're letting that happen. So as a result, it's important to get the youth to vote, especially, like I said in the panel, New York State has the lowest vote turnout, just putting that out there again, and to connect people with issues in their communities and to elected officials that will advocate for change. As you probably already know, young people are the largest, most diverse, and most progressive portion of the population, but the vote is the lowest numbers, like I said before. So why is this? Why is this happening? Why are we talking about this? So let's look at some earlier efforts to get the youth involved in voting.
So let's talk about Freedom Summer 1964, where 1,000 college-age young people came together in Mississippi to actually register voters of color. So this was a time where we were still working on getting everybody to vote in the country, and there was people our age, or my age rather, I don't know, everybody's age, but there were people in college actually advocating for others, making sure they were getting the right to vote and they were getting them registered because of suppression. And due to literacy training, because they believe it was one of the most vital ways to promote social change. The stakes were high on the very first day they arrived. 3 of them were actually murdered, as you see at the bottom right picture. They were missing and murdered. Not a single one of the young activists turned around and went home. They were willing to literally put their lives on the line for a cause they believed in. And also, as we know, John Lewis of Georgia was a leader in the 1964 Freedom Summer voter registration. And he continually fought for our country until his passing last Friday. He advocated for the youth during this time and throughout his whole life, as you can see him in the middle.
Yeah, and just to add on, not one of those single young activists turned around and went home. They were very passionate about this. They wanted to do this, and they were literally willing to put their life on the line because this is what they believed in. So just to give some historical background on why we're talking about this, pretty much.
Exactly, because we have to remember that people fought for our rights to actually vote, and we should use that privilege to go out and vote, because many other people in our country want to vote and they don't have that. They don't have the privilege to, and it's our civic duty to help out these people that actually want to go out to vote, which is undocumented or felons, which is very unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. So here, interestingly, one form of youth-led collective action led to the ability of many of you in this room to vote. Before 1971, people had to be 21 to vote, but draft age for Vietnam War was 18. So young people say, if I can fight, I deserve the right to vote. And just a little campaign slogan that was attached to that was old enough to fight, old enough to vote. So why am I, I'm willing to fight for my country, but why do I still not have the abilities and the rights to vote and advocate for change?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I didn't even know about this until I started doing workshops, and then I realized that, imagine now, I'm 20 years old, I wouldn't have the ability to vote. I would just feel weird not having the ability to vote. So there's a lot that goes into actually advocating for a lot of people to vote, even like I mentioned before, felons and undocumented, which are people that actually pay taxes and stuff. So they should definitely be considered.
And here, this historically is actually what led to the creation of Why Vote. hence the why. YVO brings together teams from across socioeconomic, racial, and political spectrum and over 20 different high schools in all 5 boroughs of New York. By analyzing issues we deeply care about, things like criminal, environmental, gender, and immigration justice, through the lens of why vote. We develop a deeper understanding of what it means to be change makers and work at the intersection of individual activism, collective activism, and electoral activism. So pretty much with what YVO does, it is youth-led. It is pretty much 100% youth-led. We come up with the problems we identify the problems that we see that we want to sort of strategize to change, whether that's doing workshops and telling other people about it, whether that's lobbying, whether that's teaming up with other youth-led organizations. We want to create change. That's like our whole big thing, and also why vote. So yeah.
Yeah, continuing the conversation about why vote. The Y in why vote stands for youth vote and for why vote, like Karla mentioned before. So why do we care about youth voting? Personally, young people, like said earlier, are the largest, most diverse, most progressive generations we have ever had. And we present a huge opportunity to create meaningful social change in this country. With that being said, we should be on the front lines of voting. We should be the ones out there going out to vote regardless of anything. Nobody can take away that right. And I know there's a lot of voter suppression where they don't give you time to go out and vote because, as we know, a voting day is on a Tuesday. But guess what? Minority people still have to vote. They have to go out and vote. And they usually target this to the people that have minimum wage jobs. And we have to think about this, how we're going to advocate for them and making sure the managers, the store owners know that they have the right to vote. Like in New York State, you literally they're supposed to give you, I believe an hour or two, not too sure, to go out and vote. But how can we do this if you work in a different district and now you're doing a ballot that may or may not count? But yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just to add on to what Yessii was saying, yes, voter suppression is something that I feel like Why Vote also does a good job in talking about and identifying what voter suppression also really is, because as much as, we say go out and vote, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of barriers that is not allowing you to vote. Black and brown people in underserved communities not being able to vote and go out there and register to vote. And I feel like that just goes back to the systematic government that unfortunately, it wasn't made for Black and brown people. It wasn't made for us to definitely go out there and advocate and a lot change. So definitely understanding what the barriers are, I feel like is a good step, and just knowing why to vote, why it's so important as well. So.
Yeah, and just to mention, protests, social media, and online petitions play an extremely important role in creating change. But change really happens through elected officials. The people in power are the ones that can actually change the law. They can actually put policies into place. They can vote on it. They can advocate for us. And voting for them and holding them accountable should be the most important thing. So we have a question for the audience before we reveal the answer. Does anyone know what percentage of 18-year-olds voted in 2016? You can go ahead and put the percentage on the chat, or if you want to speak out loud, which I hope some of you do, you can go ahead and raise your hand and Jason will unmute you so we can hear your guess. Olivia said 21%.
Okay. We see you, Olivia.
We appreciate your answer and your interaction with us. Anybody else? Let's get a couple more guesses before we reveal it. Jason said 30%.
Okay, closer.
You're getting more. Yeah. Anybody else?
Okay. Should we? Okay.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
Isabella, okay.
5%, okay. Drum roll, please. So it's actually, in 2016, 36% of 18-year-olds voted. Over 70% of voters over 70 voted. Can you believe that number? Only 36% of 18-year-olds voted that year. And in the 2014 midterm, just 14% of 18-year-olds voted. 14.
No.
Insane. Just thought, if you want to interact with these numbers, just put it down on the chat. But we're gonna move on because we have to. The time is short. But Karla will be talking about it a little more.
Yeah. So let's talk. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll let him get the statistics. Mm-hmm. Should I continue?
Go ahead.
Okay. So youth voting matters. Okay, it matters. So voting is a habit forming, and it's basically like you form that habit sort of over time with the continuing voting, not only in presidential elections, may I add, but also in community, like in your community and on the local level. Like that's where we need to go. So research shows that people who vote in 2 consecutive elections as soon as they're eligible are likely to vote for life. This is what stats show. So, young voters can have an impact on their household, increasing the likelihood that others in their household will vote. For example, the immigrant families, and I can understand, and a couple of my friends from first generation, it's definitely a fear of voting, whether just voting, also doing the census. I can definitely adhere to that. But definitely just having the resources and the information to help like your family members and your friends know like how they're still able to vote and advocate for change is still very important. Young people are a major subject in the electorate. By the 2020 presidential election, 1 in 10 eligible voters will be members of the Generation Z. That is young people between 18 and 23. And Gen Z and millennials together comprise 30% of the population. It's pretty cool. So yeah, our voices tend to be less valued than elders, in part because we don't turn out for the elections. And that's a big part of why Vote's mission is like why vote, but also youth vote, like Yessii was saying. I feel like that's definitely a big thing that since we have the lowest voter turnout rate, I feel like that's definitely something that we're advocating for change for sure.
Yeah, and as you can see again with these charts and statistics, the youth are not being represented, and that's because we don't go out to vote. Because we are the young people, we have to help out our households. I actually help out my household to vote. They used to not vote, and now that I'm voting, they're like, I need to vote now. So you really play a big impact in your household when it comes to anything. So let's move on and talk about the barriers to voting. So in order to make a change within the system, we have to make sure we are aware of the ways in which it attempts to limit us. There's a lot of voter suppression out there. A lot of people are not aware because they're not suppressed, and they believe that they have the mindset where if it doesn't affect them, it doesn't matter, which is a mindset we're trying to shift. And can we think of recent and historical examples of ways in which young folks have been underestimated and ignored? Does anybody want to call out or write in the chat before we get into it? We just want to hear from you if you're aware of these barriers or not. And we'll end with this. Does anybody want to share the barriers? It's okay. So civic education is actually very limited in schools. And we're not taught the basics of registering to vote. We're not taught about ballots. We're not taught about like local and state elections. Like I was very ignorant until I joined YVO. I did not know there was other elections besides presidential, like midterms. And also many states are still behind in lowering the voting age and enacting automatic pre-registration voter registration such as New York State right now. New Yorkers are not able to pre-register and online, and New Yorkers are not able to register if they do not have a state-issued ID. But why? New York City is accessible. Not everyone has their license or their state-issued IDs. As Karla mentioned earlier, we were in the panel, and state-issued IDs have a cost. At the end of the day, not many people are able to pay that cost, which limits them from voting if they don't have that ID.
Yeah.
But yeah, get involved.
Mm-hmm. So what you can do to sort of get involved, and the big thing is register to vote. You're able to register to vote online through New York State's DMV site if you have a New York State DMV issued ID. If you don't, unfortunately, you're not able to register given this current time of COVID. But it's definitely annoying. So I hear you on that front. But advocate for accessible online voter registration, which was what I was talking about in the panel. If any of you guys were there, contact electeds through email, phone, tweet them, or organize rallies to create this change. And also join YVote. We welcome new members this summer. We're working with 125 youth from 69 high schools. And just like Yessii did, she showed you guys the website of some of our new Y voters coming in. And we'll welcome new members for the fall. If you're interested, you can DM me, or you can email YVote. You could email at YVoteNY or Sanda at YVoteNY.gov. And I think Sanda will put that in the chat just to let everyone know. And also follow us on social media at YVoteNY. You can see what we're up to, certain workshops we're being a part of, and could just really get involved for sure. And also the other youth-led organizations that are present today with the workshops are, I would assume, happy to accept people into their youth-led organizations. So, just be a part of it for sure.
And we'll end there since we're out of time. But thank you so much for having us. I hope you enjoy our workshop. We did this in person. This was our first time doing it online.
Yay!
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone just for listening. If you guys were here for the panel, thank you for hearing what I had to say, the questions that I was asked, and just being a part of this workshop. And if you guys have any questions, you can email, DM me, or whatever you want. So thank you.
Or DM YVote.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you guys so much for the